Hi guys, and welcome back to the Untitled Learning Lab. This is Mrs. Lopez and I'll be teaching you today. We're going to be learning about what are variables, and if you're new to the Untitled Learning Labs, then welcome. You can watch previous videos to get caught up, and you can watch this lesson today. And if you have previously watched videos or you're returning, welcome back, and let's get started. Let me share my screen here with you real quick to start the presentation. Okay, so what are variables? So again, we're going to go over our agenda first. Our agenda today, we're going to grab our materials, our paper and pencil. So I want you to pause the video now, grab your materials for 2 minutes. If you already have your materials, then let's get started. Our joke of the day is, what is a bird's favorite type of math? If you said algebra, then you're right. And that's actually what we're going to be learning about today. Variables are a part of algebra. So our objective today is I can explain the different parts of an expression, and I can create an expression from a word problem using variables. Okay, so let's get started. So our vocabulary is, we have variables, which is a symbol that represents a number we do not know yet, and this can be seen as X, Y, and Z, or it could be used as any number from the alphabet. Also, we have the term, with the vocabulary term. It means that each expression is made up of terms, which is down here as well. We have 3 terms in this expression: 4x, 7, and 5. Those are our terms in our expression. We also have factors, which is different from the previous lessons that we've done, but factors is one part of a product. So factors of 4 and x is 4 and x. Those are 2 factors of that one product. And a product is a multiplication. So 4 and x are being multiplied together. We have coefficients, and that's a number used to multiply by a variable. So we have our coefficient, which is the number used to multiply by our variable x. And then our operator is a symbol such as the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division that shows what's going to be happening. So this is our operator. In this expression is subtraction. Okay, so I want you to take a moment and think about this problem. I want you to write an expression to represent how much money Frank has. So Frank has $5 less than Keith, who has $12. I want you to write an expression for that. And then I want you to write an expression, hint, hint, using our new vocabulary words today. Frank has $5 less than Keith. So pause the video, try to write those expressions, but I'll be coming back, and we'll be going over the answers. Okay, so now that you're back, this is the expression that I've made for the first and the second one. Because Keith had $12 and Frank has less than Keith, that means subtraction. So Keith had $12. We subtracted $5, so we found out that Frank had $7. But now this is a different expression, and this is where our variables come into play. Frank has $5 less than Keith, but we do not know how much money Keith has. So we're going to be using a variable for Keith, and for that variable, I chose K. So Keith, or K, has $5 less than Keith. Frank has $5 less than Keith, and Keith is K, so Frank has $5 less than Keith, and that's how I would write out that expression. Okay, so now I'm going to be showing you the steps to writing simple expressions. I believe there's 6 steps in this process. So step 1, we're going to read and annotate. So my expression, or my word problem that I have, is I'm a waitress and I get paid $10 an hour plus tips. We want to read it and annotate what we think is going to be our expression. So if I get paid $10 plus tips, We know that our operator is going to be plus because it tells us, and we know we're going to be adding tips. We don't know how much tips we are going to be getting because in real life scenarios, each hour that I work, I may be working during busy lunchtime and I might get more tips than I do work when it's very slow and I may only get a little bit of tips in that hour. Okay, so our second step is use a variable to represent unknowns and digits operations for different values. So this is what I wrote. I make $10 an hour plus tips, and I made tips T. So now let's say, what if my tips I made 1 hour is $30? Now I want to input or put that number into the T slot. So I should have gotten something like this. 10 plus 30 equals 40. Because I made T equals 30 because that's how much tips I made for that hour, I input it in where I had T at. So 10 plus T, or 30, equals 40. Now what if my tips were $10? What would I have? If you said 10 plus 10, you're correct, because 10 plus T, and my T is 10, equals 20. So that's our variable, is T. So we're going to define the variable now. We know that 10 plus tips equals the amount of money that I made that hour. So tips is going to be our variable, and tips equals T. So 10 plus T equals whatever I made that hour. So now we're going to identify what amount you're starting with. So we already identified that amount we're starting with. We started with 10 plus the tips, and that equals T. So then our tips are going to equal 20 right now, and our tips are going to equal 5. So now determine the operation performed on the starting amount and translate it. We've already kind of started to do this, but we want to make sure that we've already made these steps possible, and we want to make sure that these steps are correct. So again, here's my word problem. I am a waitress. I get paid $10 an hour plus tips. So we know that the operation that we're going to be performing today is going to be plus, because we make $10 an hour plus tips. So 10 plus T equals whatever I made that hour. And our step 6 is check by restating and comparing the verbal written expression. So I'm going to say my verbal expression is I'm a waitress and I get paid $10 an hour plus tips. This hour I made $20 in tips. So 10 plus T equals the amount of money I made that hour. We have our plus because we know that we're adding our tips to our hourly wage of $10. And we know that our tips are going to be 20, so our expression should be something like this. $10 plus 20 equals 30. So now what if I made $5 in tips for that hour? Pause the video. I want you to look at this example on the left, and I want you to rewrite that expression so you have this is expression for this verbal expression that we have up here. Okay, now that you've written your expression, you should have gotten something like this. So now we know that our tips are $5, so we should be adding the $5 to our $10 and get something like this. 10 plus 5 equals 15, so that was my average hourly wage that I made for the 1 hour where I made tips of $5. Now if I made tips of 20, I obviously made more money because I got more money in my tips. Okay, so now let's break down an expression. I wanted to make an expression to show you that what if I worked 5 hours that day, or 10 hours, or 1 hour. This is an expression to show you where I can add hours to my expression. So I'm a waitress. I get paid $10 an hour, so $10 an hour. And I put H as my variable for hour, plus, so we're going to have addition, $50 bonus every day that I work. So this is not every hour that I work, it's every day. So this is counted as 1 day for my expression. The 10 is my coefficient. The variable is H because I made my variable H because it is hours. And I add a $50 bonus for every day I work, so that is my constant. So now, let's go and do a sample problem. So I want you to pause the video. I want you to try out these sample problems and see if you have gotten the answers correct. So let's say I worked 10 hours. What would my answer be for my pay for that day? Let's say I worked 5 hours. How much would my pay be for that day? And let's say I worked 1 hour. How much would my pay be for that day? Pause the video for 5 to 10 minutes to do this sample problem. Okay, so now that you're back, let's say I worked 10 hours. What would my answer be? So we're going to rewrite our expression. So we have 10 times H plus 50. We know that our hours that we worked for that day are going to be 10, so we're going to put that in for the hours H. So we should have gone something like this. 10 times 10 plus 50. Well, 10 times 10 is 100, and we're going to add 50 to that, so that gives us 150. So that's how much money I made in that day. So let's say I worked 5 hours another day. What would that be? Well, we're going to rewrite our expression, 10 times H plus 50. Our H is the number of hours we worked, and that day we worked 5 hours. So we input that in for H, and 10 times 5 plus 50. 10 times 5 is 50, plus 50 is 100. Now, let's say we worked for 1 hour. What would our answer be? Well, let's rewrite our expression. We have 10 times H plus 50. Our H stands for the number of hours we worked, and the next day I worked only 1 hour. So I got 10 times 1 plus 50. Well, a number multiplied by 1 is itself, so that is 10 plus 50 equals 60. So let's practice some more. Well, I did break it down a couple slides ago, what is a coefficient. And so I want you to find the coefficient of these two problems in the top. And then also I want you to write an expression. So what is the coefficient of the expression 10x plus 8? And what is the coefficient of the term 7y in the expression 9 plus 7y? And then our word problem that we have is, it takes me 30 minutes to drive to work every day plus traffic. What would be my expression? So pause the video again for 5 to 10 minutes to practice these problems, and then we'll come back. Okay, so now that you've already done these problems, let's go over the answers. So what is a coefficient? That coefficient of this expression should be 10 because it is the number being multiplied by the variable, and that's 10. And then what is the coefficient of the term 7y in the expression 9 plus 7y? Well, you should have gotten 7 because 7 is the number multiplied by the variable, so that is the coefficient that we have here. So now we have our word problem. It takes me 30 minutes to drive to work every day plus traffic. What would be my expression? This is what I wrote down. It takes me 30 minutes to drive to work every day plus the traffic, and I put T for traffic, and that is going to be my variable. That stands for traffic. So now, let's say I had to wait an hour in traffic. Well, we have 30 minutes plus 1 hour, but we have to change that to minutes. So I waited an hour and 30 minutes in traffic to get to work. We have some extra games that you can be practicing at home. These will also be in your learning guides so you can get the links to them. We have math games and then identifying terms and coefficients. So these are 2 practice games that you can practice playing and finding out your terms and coefficients, and also writing your expressions. So our objectives today, where I can explain the different parts of an expression. We have the coefficient, we have terms, we have the variable, and we have the factors. So those are the 4 different parts of the expression. And then we also can create an expression from a word problem using variables, which we done in that last problem that we did. So I hope you guys had a fun time learning about what are variables and how to make an expression. In our next lesson, we're going to be learning about how to solve expressions and add substitution into it. I did go over a little bit today, but we're going to go more into depth of it in the next video. Hope you guys have fun and have a good day.